What's up everyone? I got a new part for my Civic Sport Hatch and I wanted to go over how to install it. We got the DownForce Solutions Gurney flap V2 and it's going to need a few things like the Gurney flap, the hardware that it comes with, and then also a threaded rivet gun. Going right into it, I did mask off the back of the rear spoiler where we're going to be mounting this. This served a couple purposes. The first one was to just make sure that whatever I drew on went straight onto the masking tape and I didn't have to make any marks on the spoiler. The other one was when you're drilling into the spoiler itself, it does help knowing that you're not getting any plastic shavings anywhere that it's not supposed to be. Okay, so measurements. I did measure from end to end on the spoiler and it does equal out to about 108 millimeters. So I did mark the center, which was 54, and I worked with the holes as it was placed up against the back of the spoiler. First thing I noticed when I placed this Gurney flap onto the spoiler was that the holes were not completely even all the way across. So what I did was I just marked the tape measure that I had with the placement of the holes, just so I can get the most accurate measurement. I'm placing the measurements that I found to be correct to my Gurney flap, but at the same time I always recommend before drilling, because it's permanent, to always check the measurements just to make sure that it lines up. First one that I found for the first hole was about 104.5 millimeters from end to end. The next one was going to be 79.5 millimeters, and then from the other side it's going to be 28.5 millimeters and 3.5 millimeters. Now, measuring the up and down of that hole relative to the vertical face of the spoiler, the lines weren't perfect, but at the same time I did find somewhere where I can meet it halfway. So what I did was I actually just ended up measuring the spoiler halfway up, and that's the point where I was going to drill. The most nerve-wracking part about any type of drilling is just the fact that you're drilling into a brand new car. In my case, this is a 2021 Honda Civic Sport Hatch. So I've only had this car for about 6 to 7 months. So drilling into this, I did try two different ways. I did have a stepper drill, and I also checked out just a regular drill bit, and they both worked. And the rivets actually go in there pretty well. With the rivet gun and the threaded rivets attached to it, all you have to do pretty much is put it in, clamp it down, and what it does is it creates a threaded end inside of the spoiler. And you always want to make sure that you're pushing in fairly even, just so it stays flat against the spoiler. And you definitely don't want to go too big on the holes, just to make sure that this actually works and it doesn't slip out. I did try to just make sure that the threads still worked and everything still went in fine, and I proceeded to insert all of the rivets across the spoiler. Now once that was on, I pretty much just worked on adding the actual Gurney flap to the back end of the spoiler. And the way that I did that was I actually just made sure that the minute I put the middle one in, that all 4 holes line up. I did use a couple things like a little foam insert to go on the back end of the Gurney flap between the spoiler and the Gurney flap, and I started screwing everything down, and that was pretty much it. Everything else went really smoothly. I think really what is key here is to just make sure that to take your time, measure everything will look perfect and it'll stay centered as long as everything's measured out beforehand. I guess the easiest way to get this wrong is to not measure. Here's some pictures and some B-roll shots of the Gurney flap actually attached to the car. I'm planning on painting this hopefully sometime soon, and then also or try vinyl wrap. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks. Have fun.